Hey there, my name is Anthony Romano, and this video is going to be on how you should be training on a ketogenic diet, what kind of changes you should make, if you should make any, and basically what type of training is most optimal on keto. So, how should you be training on a ketogenic diet? The answer is the exact same way you trained before. So, if you're coming from a bodybuilding or fitness background and you went from a bulk cut type thing, or you're trying to lose fat, which is a common use of keto, then in that case, train the exact same way. If you're a powerlifter or some other type of athlete, there's different things that apply, but in general, always the same way you trained before. So, as far as the bodybuilding and fitness context, your body produces lactic acid every time you train, and when you train bodybuilding style, right, which is shooting for 8 to 12 rep range, right, with a couple higher strength lifts thrown in there, right, gradually, progressively overloading your strength, okay, when you're training in that manner, your lactic acid threshold is going to be higher. So bodybuilders always have higher lactate threshold, and whenever you create lactic acid, your body creates sugar really to fulfill that. So when you have lactic acid being produced, it inherently may start some gluconeogenesis, which is turning protein into sugar. Now, a lot of people are afraid of gluconeogenesis on keto. You don't have to be afraid of this. As long as you're getting enough protein, your body's going to have enough protein to avoid pulling from your muscle stores. And this plays in very smoothly down the line because your body's going to not recruit any of its stored muscle, only protein that you're eating, because it has a better ability to create glucose. So what happens when you have this lactic acid in your muscles? You are still going to build that up the same way that happens when you train with carbohydrates in your diet. However, the first week, your training is probably not going to improve. After the adaptation period passes, which for most people is 3 to 6 weeks, after you're fat adapted, your body will get better at creating that glucose from protein. And overall, you're also going to be better at burning fat. So you're going to have more fuel available from a mix of fat energy and carb energy, okay? So it might be a little bit difficult for you to wrap your head around, but you're going to have the best of both worlds, basically. Fat is going to handle 90% of the job, protein's going to take care of the rest because it's going to be turning into glucose in appropriate amounts. So when you're training for bodybuilding and everything associated with fitness and your image and how you appear physically, train the exact same way. Of course, as you get leaner, like I'm talking shredded lean, your strength will probably decline. But for the most part, you can actually build up a lot of strength when you're losing majority of your fat on keto. This is in contrast to a lot of other diets, because with carbohydrate-based diets, your energy is basically limited to the amount of carbohydrates you're taking in. So when your body's still running on carbs and you're not giving it enough, your energy will basically diminish over time as you slowly drop those carbs. What I advocate for is make the jump, cut the carbs all the way anyways, because you're going to have to do it eventually. Get your body more adapted to using fat, which is going to be more fat burn for you and better lifts in the gym, better performance. So before you get anywhere near 10% body fat, if you're even 15%, you'll probably notice your lifts going up because you have still an adequate amount of glucose. Your body's going to make as much as it can from extra protein, and then your body's going to have fat systemically through your bloodstream. So you basically have only glucose being used when it's truly needed, which is better for you because that means fat is taking up more of your energy requirements. Another thing too is that your nitrogen balance and your body's ability to spare nitrogen, which is something that breaks off of protein basically, is higher on keto when you're fat adapted. In the beginning, you're not going to have that benefit. You're going to need to keep your protein adequate, okay? But after fat adaptation occurs, you can get away with even 50 grams of protein a day and you won't be in a negative nitrogen balance, which means your body won't be wasting any protein. Basically, it's easier to be in a positive nitrogen balance when you're on keto. So if you are in a positive nitrogen balance, your body will be storing more protein and it will have more available for your lifts and for any other activities you do. When it comes to powerlifters or other people doing high intense sports, okay, this is something that you have to wrap your head around. Shooting for 1 rep maxes in the gym is predominantly an anaerobic activity. Okay, I've had videos on this, but anaerobic activities are activities without oxygen and with oxygen. And carbohydrate energy is typically recruited for anaerobic activities. So this means activities where you're not breathing entirely. When you're breathing involved, and when there's any activity you can do, like any weightlifting you can do while you're still able to breathe, that's an indication that your body's going to use fat for that activity. So shooting for 1 rep maxes is going to be pushing you closer to carbohydrate energy. But if you're a power lifter or somebody doing very intense sports and you want to try keto, don't be discouraged, because many studies have actually shown that people on a fat adapted keto metabolism, so not the first few weeks after they've been adapted, because that is the distinction here, your body will actually begin to use fat for a portion of that 1 rep max. It will use glucose for whatever the most it can handle is with that rep. So you're going to use a bit of glucose, a bit of creatine phosphate from the creatine phosphate system, so a bit of creatine, a bit of carbohydrate, a bit of fat. That's where the rep is going to be made up of. So even if you're shooting for 1 rep maxes or sprinting or some sort of intense sport, you're still going to have a mix of carb and fat energy in an optimal balance of the two without your performance suffering. In fact, many people find they perform better when they have a mix of fat and carb, because this is the way your body was meant to handle intense activity. So with weightlifters and people who are only shooting for at most 3 rep maxes, okay? If the peak of your strength training, right? I'm using strength training opposed to bodybuilding training. If the peak of your strength training is 3 or 4 rep maxes, you won't have any issues with ketogenic dieting and fitness training, okay? If you're going powerlifter route, yeah, it probably would be better if you had to spike your protein a bit more so you could have more glucose in your bloodstream. But at the end of the day, you're not going to be losing any muscle, especially if you're fat adapted. So when it comes to the optimal balance of your energy, train the exact same way, because even if you are a power lifter or you're a soccer player or a basketball player, you can get away with doing a ketogenic diet, getting adequate protein. You don't have to force the protein low. That's a myth, okay? And your body will probably use up the extra glucose from the activities you're doing. With bodybuilders and fitness people, and like I said, people who aren't shooting for 1 rep maxes, you don't have to worry, basically. That's the simplest way to describe it for you. Because with anything you're capable of doing while breathing, aerobic activity, fat is very conducive to being used as an energy source, okay? I'm saying fat because when you're adapted on keto, most of the ketones you produce after the adaptation phase go to your brain. The rest of your energy comes from fat in your bloodstream, fatty acids, and from glucose stored in your muscles as muscle glycogen. So as far as anybody concerned about how you should train the exact same way you did before. If you are a power lifter or somebody who prioritizes strength, at first that's going to go down. But if you're doing this for weight loss purposes, even though the first week or so it might go down or stay the same, a lot of people actually notice it sometimes goes up or stays the exact same. In my experience, my strength has always stayed the exact same when I'm not adapted yet, and then after I become adapted and I have weight to lose and I'm not 8% body fat, then my strength is still continuously going up because your body has an abundance of fat energy that it can break down. There's a reason why your body stores so much fat, okay? When you are in a caloric deficit, your metabolic rate will get amped up. So that means how many calories you're burning a day. And if you only have a certain amount of carb energy in your system with a carbohydrate-based diet, and you're not able to tap into the fat stores as much, your body's not going to be capitalizing on the amount of energy it can make as per the metabolic rate that you have and using that for fuel during exercise. If you are fat adapted, you're going to use as much fuel as you can. Your body's going to produce as much fuel as it can from fat, because if you burn 3,000 calories a day, most of those calories, whatever remains in your caloric intake, will be produced by your body's fat stores, okay? Hopefully that wasn't too convoluted, but either way, the point is, as long as you're not 8% body fat, your strength will probably go up if you're dropping from 15 or more percent body fat down to the ripped levels. Your strength will be consistent, either the same, slight increases, and then yeah, as you get closer to completely shredded, always your body will drop strength a little bit. But even in my experience, my lifts haven't dropped much when I get really lean. It's only been like a couple pounds or maybe 1 rep off of my 8 rep max, okay? Overall, I've actually net increased my strength because coming from the bulk, my bench press, for example, was 4 reps higher on my 6 rep max, right? I was able to press the same weight that I did for 6, for 10, and then down the line, it eventually dropped to 8 reps. So after the cut, I was basically able to press that initial 6 rep max for 8 reps. So in the net scheme of things, my strength has went up, even though when I went from 10% to 8%, it might have dropped a rep or 2. Again, hopefully that wasn't too convoluted, but for the sake of simplicity, train the exact same way you did before, unless you're a power lifter or an intense athlete. Then from there, give yourself enough time, in the off season preferably, to get adapted, and then from there, you'll have all these benefits going down the line. And here's the beauty of it. Even if you get to 8 or 9% body fat or 7% body fat and you feel like your strength might go down, if you then start having enough calories, right, assuming you're not still in a caloric deficit, and you even increase the calories, your strength will go back up again, right? Same with any diet. So it's all about how much energy your body has access to. Keto metabolism gives your body a little bit better access to energy, and of course, as you get leaner and leaner, that access diminishes. But if you start feeding yourself ketogenic macros from there at higher calorie intake, then of course you have more energy to use. So that's the entirety of this video. Thank you for watching. My name is Anthony Romano, and beyond this, if you want some free training and meal plans for ketogenic diets, those are in the description. And if you want to go to my coaching website, romanoketo.com, I'm going to have some programs thrown up there too for people who don't need something as personal as one-to-one coaching. I think that's really going to be very beneficial. And hopefully by the time you watch this video, those are up there as well. Thank you for watching. Anthony Romano. Peace.